What a jam-packed week. We have so much to talk about today, and you're going to hear from Kent Hughes, Martin St. Louis, Jean-Francois Houle, Joshua Waugh, plus an exclusive with Charlie Lindgren and Will Bitten as the Laval Rocket gear up for their series against the Springfield Thunderbirds. Let's get started. Well, hello, friends, and welcome to this week's episode of Habs Hockey Report right here on All Habs Hockey Magazine's YouTube channel, part of Rocket Sports Media. You can find us also at allhabs.net. Welcome back. If this is your first time watching the show, hello, my name is Amy Johnson. I'm your host each and every Thursday, as well as the lead correspondent over at AHLreport.com, covering the Laval Rocket and all of the Habs prospects wherever they are playing. So glad that you are here with us. Boy, as I said there at the top of the show, we have a jam-packed week to talk about. So much to talk about. St. Louis has a new contract. Kent Hughes is at the NHL Combine. And the Laval Rocket are gearing up for their first appearance in the Eastern Conference Final in the Calder Cup playoffs. Very exciting. We want to get you previewed for that series. And as I said, we've also got some exclusive content as we spoke to Charlie Lindgren and Will Bitten, former Habs prospects, playing on the opposition side in this series. So lots to talk about today. In fact, we had a bit of fan mail today that also serves as a bit of an All Habs roll call piece. We have this gentleman saying, I know this is off topic, but I'm amped up for the Laval Springfield series. Living in Massachusetts and 10 minutes from the Mass Mutual Center, I have tickets for the first two games. It's not often I get to see the next generation of Habs. Go Rocket. Thanks so much for your comment. Glad to hear that you're watching from Massachusetts. And yes, this promises to be an exciting series. Congratulations to you for getting tickets and having them in your backyard, so to speak. Let us know in the comments below where you're watching this week from, and we'll put you into the All Habs roll call next week. In addition, always looking for contributions or questions for the All Habs mailbag to answer questions about the Montreal Canadiens, the Laval Rocket, Habs prospects, the draft, you name it. Drop a question in the comments section below, and we'll answer it right here on the show in an upcoming episode when we dig into the All Habs mailbag. For now, however, do want to get you thinking about this week's feedback forum question, and quite frankly, we're getting down to business in the Stanley Cup Finals. It is conference final time. There are only 4 teams left, and so toss your beginning of the playoff bracket out the window. I'd like to know down below. I'd like to kind of gauge everyone's temperature right now, given the situation right now. Who are you predicting is going to lift the Stanley Cup this year? There's only 4 teams left. Who do you think it's going to be? Drop that comment down below. Looking forward to reading your responses next week on the show. Let's kick things off with Habs happenings, and this week certainly some plenty of news to talk about in this segment. Probably the biggest headline of all was Martin St. Louis finally getting that contract extension that we even talked last week was rumored to be imminent, and sure enough, it came out just yesterday, just on Wednesday this week. Martin St. Louis inked to a 3-year contract extension that will place him behind the bench as the Montreal Canadiens head coach through the 2024-25 season. And, you know, it was kind of predictable, as I've said in previous episodes of the show. Was wondering if the Canadiens would still interview other candidates available for this position while also keeping St. Louis in kind of in their sights. But it looked like they were pretty pleased with how things went with Martin St. Louis as he came in replacing Dom Ducharme this season. St. Louis didn't have exactly while he brought a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and brought the quote unquote fun back to the game, you could see a very big difference in the demeanor on and off the ice for all of the players under his tenure. There was still an issue with winning. He was 14, 19, and 4 on the season. So looking to see that improve. And now the big question will be, can he sustain with a coach who doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of NHL coaching experience or pro hockey coaching experience under his belt yet? Can he make and create a sustaining winning culture behind the Canadiens bench throughout a season when now the games will matter and the points will matter and wins will matter? They were out of it when he took over after Dom Ducharme left this year. So, trying to make the playoffs wasn't really part of the package deal when he came on board. Now things are going to be a little different. Yes, they are going to focus on development, and they are going to focus on creating a winning culture in the dressing room and so forth. Don't expect things to be an immediate turnaround, but really the eye for this next season is going to be on, how he can put together a team and what kind of positive progression they can make throughout the season. That's going to be the big test. The Canadiens thought they were doing that test a year ago in the same exact situation, taking the interim tag off of Dominic Ducharme and giving him a 3-year contract. And that really, frankly, blew up in their faces, and they ended up having to fire Dom Ducharme halfway through the first year of that 3-year contract. So I'm a little surprised that they didn't go the Bruce Boudreau route that Vancouver did and just give St. Louis a 1-year contract to see what he can do with a team on his own for a full season, particularly since they're still paying other coaches. But it is what it is, and a 3-year contract is what Martin St. Louis has. Here's a little bit of what he had to say to reporters after the announcement was made.
I don't think I've proved myself to be a good coach yet. I feel like when I came into the league and I knew I had the ability to be a good player in this league, but it took me, some time to prove people that, I could execute in this league. And I think as a coach, I feel the same way. I think I have an experience and qualities that I think I can make me a good coach, but I'm going to have to, my actions, the way I succeed will speak for itself. I think I understand what my bench feels like. Everybody on my roster, I think I know where they feel, because I felt everything they felt based on where they, were in the depth chart or whatnot. And I think the fact that I was able to play for a long time, I think I was able to be exposed to many different coaches, different situation on the ice. I've always been a student of the game, and I feel I absorbed a lot of that, and now it's to try to teach that, and so for me, I think I have the abilities to possibly be a good coach, just like I was as a player, and now I have to prove it, and I'm looking forward to that.
An interesting comment for me to have to say, well, I'm going to have to prove I'm a good coach. Not exactly what I want to hear from the new head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, that I have to prove that I'm a good coach. We should already know that you're a good coach if you're getting that position. So not loving that comment, but again, take it all with a grain of salt. We're going to see how this all shakes out. We've talked, there was even some comments after last week's show, one of our viewers talking about how, of course, there's a language requirement for the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. And so, yes, it's not as if Pete DeBoer was going to be brought in or Barry Trotz was going to be brought in as the head coach, which for me, for this reporter, for this host, is a bit of a disappointment because to me, the goal and the only goal and the biggest priority should be on winning a Stanley Cup. language should be secondary to that, but I understand that there are certain things in place that it's just kind of how it goes. So we will see how Martin St. Louis does. Of course, we wish him all the best. We want him to succeed, but we'll certainly be watching with a critical eye for the positives and the negatives as he embarks on this newest era of coaching with the Montreal Canadiens. It'll be fun to watch. He also did mention that he plans to keep his assistant coaches. So Luke Richardson, Alex Burrows look like they will be still in place. He did say there's a possibility that they might add one more assistant coach, but didn't really go into any further detail than that or any timeline as to when that decision will be made. So that will be interesting to see. Two things, both if he does bring another assistant coach in, and also if all of the assistant coaches he currently has choose to stay. Just because he says that he plans to keep all of his assistants doesn't necessarily mean that they all will choose to stay. We'll see if there are any or many assistant coaching changes as the summer progresses, but something to keep an eye on for sure. Now, Kent Hughes also met with the media this week, except this time this was in Buffalo. He's back from Helsinki after watching the Men's World Championships, and he was in Buffalo as the NHL Combine gets kicked off. We're really now into NHL entry draft season, and the next month is going to be hard spent with scouts and the scouting departments to really map out a plan for the draft. And the Combine is really a big key to get that process started. Of course, Shane Wright, all eyes are on Shane Wright. All eyes are also on guys like Juraj Slafkovsky and Logan Cooley. So we'll see. Kent Hughes said they've already talked to Shane Wright, had an interview with him, that it went very well. That he seems to be a very mature young man and was impressed with him. He did admit in his interview earlier this week that there were some interviews that didn't go so well. Would be really curious to know who those were with. The one thing that Kent Hughes was asked that he did emphatically state, there was rumors and reports coming out that the Montreal Canadiens were one of a couple of teams who would specifically not draft Russian players. And most of those rumors, even with the other teams named, have been debunked. Kent Hughes was asked directly, and he also emphatically said that's absolutely not true. The Canadiens are not disqualifying any Russian prospects in the draft this year. So want to make sure that message gets put across. But overall, Kent Hughes seemed to be pretty positive and looking forward to his first experience with the NHL draft, sitting at the drafting table instead of being a player agent.
This is my obviously my first time through from a club perspective, but I would put more weight on the interviews to the extent that, I think some players come very prepared by others, but where we can kind of get below the surface and try to get to know the player a little bit better, know the personality, the characteristics that we covet or concern us. Those are important things. I think the physical testing, I think, is a little bit hard to quantify in some ways because some guys have access to training all year. Some guys have been out of the playoffs for a long time. Some guys are going to come here on the doorstep of their season having concluded. So, the information, all of it's helpful, but if I were to value one over the other, it would be the interview process.
Pretty exciting as things get started with preparations for the NHL draft to be held in Montreal. All eyes will be on Montreal to see who it is that they do actually select at first overall. Will it be Shane Wright, or will they go in a different direction? Will they also use their assets in the draft and potentially move up to get someone else after that first overall pick? Lots to keep an eye on. We will be here all summer long, each and every week, here on Habs Hockey Report, and also both of our podcasts, both Canadiens Connection, which comes out every Saturday. You can find that at canadiensconnection.fm, as well as The Press Zone, which comes out every Tuesday, focusing on Habs prospects and draft prospects. That is, you can find that at thepresszone.fm. So we encourage you to check those out and subscribe. We'll be here with you all summer long. There is no off season here at Rocket Sports. Well, our Rocket Booster segment continues to get more and more exciting each and every week as the Calder Cup playoffs continue to progress, and Laval is still right in there in the hunt and in the running. In fact, they are one of just 4 teams left in the AHL vying for the Calder Cup, and so they're getting ready to kick off their Eastern Conference Final Series against the Springfield Thunderbirds coming up this weekend. They will start that series on the road as Springfield does have home ice advantage in this season, but the series is a 2-3-2, meaning they'll play the first 2 games on the road. Games 3, 4, and 5, if necessary, will take place on home ice for Laval at Place Bell, and then if games 6 and or 7 are necessary, those will finish in Springfield once again. So a bit of a different way to do the series, and could be an advantage to Laval with those 3 games at home in the middle of the series if they're able to come up with at least 1 win on the road in Springfield this weekend. This will be a tall task for the Laval Rocket. Springfield is so far undefeated in the playoffs. That's right. They swept both of their first 2 rounds 3-0, sweeping the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins 3-0, as well as sweeping the Charlotte Checkers 3-0 in the division final. So they haven't lost yet. The Springfield Thunderbirds finished 7th overall in the league. They are an elite group. They have a lot of weapons at every position, not the least of which is their goaltending tandem made up of Joel Hofer and Charlie Lindgren, who Joel Hofer is currently leading the AHL in the playoffs as far as his stats go, and Charlie Lindgren missed a little bit of the playoffs as he was on emergency recall in St. Louis for the Blues, backing up Ville Husso after Jordan Binnington went down injured late in their playoff run. But Lindgren is now back between the pipes for the Springfield Thunderbirds. We'll see how he splits duties with Joel Hofer, as Springfield has been doing all season long. But I had a chance to speak to Charlie Lindgren earlier today, and he is definitely ready for this series and thinks Springfield's got a lot in the tank to take this the distance.
Yeah, I mean, I think what makes us special would be just up and down our lineup, our depth. I think we got some forwards that can definitely put the puck in the net. You look at Matthew Pekka, Sam Annis, James Neal, Nathan Todd. You can go down the lineup in our forward group, and we got a lot of talent there. And then on the back end, we got some smooth skating D, some guys that on the back end can move the puck really well, guys that defend really well. So we're deep there. And then in goal with Hope and I think we've done a really good job this year of just being a really good tandem, just pushing each other and having fun doing it and just competing, and it's been awesome. So I like the makeup of our team a lot. I think we got a really good hockey team, and playing hockey in June, that's what you want to be doing.
So speaking of splitting a series, the Laval Rocket and Springfield Thunderbirds only faced each other twice this season, once in Springfield and once in Laval, and in both cases it was the road team who won. They split the regular season series 1-1. In fact, Laval beat Springfield in overtime back in February, or I believe it was January. It was kind of mid-season. And then in March, Springfield came and visited Laval and Place Bell and beat them 5-2 in their own barn. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these two teams stack up against one another. They don't have a lot of experience playing one another, so Coach Jean-Francois Houle and Drew Bannister are both going to have to rely a lot on video scouting and pre-scouting and planning in terms of how to best face off against this opponent. Jean-Francois Houle understands that this is going to be a new challenge for the Laval Rocket facing a very tough Springfield Thunderbirds team.
Yeah, Springfield, they're really good offensively. We have to limit their chances. They're skilled players have experience, which is a little different from Rochester. I don't see them getting frustrated as much as Rochester maybe did because of their experience. So, but we have to be hard on their skilled players. We have to limit their time and space, and turnovers for us is going to be a key in this series. I think it's important for us to make sure we get pucks deep on them. It's a good team, and they're playing well defensively too. Like they have a lot of goals, but they're very deep on defense, and they have 2 good goalies, so it should be a pretty good matchup.
We also had an opportunity earlier today to speak with former Montreal Canadiens prospect Will Bitten. Will Bitten had been playing for the last few years with the Iowa Wild in the AHL, part of the Minnesota Wild's system. He is now playing with the Springfield Thunderbirds, doing quite well. In fact, he is tied for second in points on the Springfield Thunderbirds team in the Calder Cup playoffs. And when we spoke to him earlier today, he gave us kind of his insight on how he thinks this series might go down.
This might be cliche, but I think our team is so close in the dressing room, and, everyone's bonding really well. And, we're not done yet. We don't want our summer to start. We're here to win it all. And I think the excitement here in the city, especially, and at our rink, is giving us a huge boost. But the biggest thing is, I think, when we come to play, we're a really good team. We're really motivated, and we're extremely excited for this challenge, because we've only played each other twice this year. And I know during that time, I think half our team had COVID, and they had a lot of guys going up to Montreal this year with their situation. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Good challenge for sure.
Springfield also got reinforcements, not only with Charlie Lindgren coming back from the St. Louis Blues, but they got quite possibly one of their best defenders, blue liner Callie Rosen, came back from St. Louis after they were eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs. So Springfield getting some reinforcements on a very already stacked team. Laval's getting new faces in the lineup. Not necessarily in the lineup, but new faces in the locker room in a different way. They've been signing very young prospects as they finish up their junior season to amateur tryout contracts. We've spoken previously that Riley Kidney signed an ATO just about a week and a half ago. He has not played yet. And when I asked Jean-Francois Houle about him earlier this week, he had this to say, and it still sounds like it's very up in the air as to whether or not Kidney will actually draw into the lineup to make a debut within the AHL during this series.
Riley's very skilled player. Still a young player that's trying to learn, but I think it's a great experience for him to be here. In our playoff run, it's good for him to be in our meetings, good for him to be on the ice. He's a good kid, lots of upside in him, and we keep monitoring it and see what happens moving on in the playoffs.
So still a question mark for Riley Kidney. In addition, Joshua Waugh also this week signed an ATO, joined the team, hadn't practiced, did a little bit of practicing yesterday, but hadn't yet met with Jean-Francois Houle to discuss any potential role. But when I did have a chance to speak with him during his media availability, he certainly seemed eager to just soak in all of the experience.
Well, it's just a good moment for me. Mean a lot for me. Like the organization make me confidence. I'm very happy right now. Like I said, just to look at the pro player in the team, like looking at them, how they act on the ice and off the ice. It's gonna be benefit for me. I'm in shape, so I'm ready to go.
So lots to be excited for. This promises to be some very exciting hockey. If you would like an even closer look at this series, a deep analytical dive talking about who to watch out for on the Springfield side, talking about the goaltending matchup, potentially Charlie Lindgren versus Caden Primo. And if you'd also like to learn more about what an incredible series the Western Conference final between the Stockton Heat and Chicago Wolves is going to be, I invite you to click the link right up here and listen to this week's episode of the Press Zone podcast. Our Rick Stevens and myself were joined in the studio by our good friend and fellow Rocket Sports contributor, Patrick Williams, to really break down both of these series and give you a comprehensive preview at both series. You don't want to miss that. Just click that link and take a listen to this week's episode if you missed it. Otherwise, Keep it locked on ahlreport.com. You can follow us at the AHL Report on Twitter. We will have live in-game updates for every game of this series, as well as full post-game recaps with audio from post-game interviews. We'll have you covered each and every step in the way, as we do all year long, with all of the Laval Rocket news. And we look forward to it. It's going to be a great series. Well, we had so much to bring you this week in Habs happenings and Rocket Booster. We'll keep the Habs Fan Hub kind of short and sweet this week, but certainly want to tip the hat to some of the fan responses that we got and some mail that we got this past week. First off, got to say thanks to Fotini, always filling our Show Your Habs timeline with some great photos. Remember, if you are going to be out and about, if you go to one of the games in Springfield or Laval in this series, if you're out on vacation and you're wearing some Habs gear while you're out, take a picture, post it on social media, use the hashtag #ShowYourHabs. We will be sure to feature you right here on the show. And as you see right there, Fotini, of course, was at Place Belle for one of those games in the North Division final series against the Rochester Americans, and it looks like Caden Primo tossed her a warm-up puck over the glass, and she was quite happy to get that. So congratulations to you. Thanks so much for your submission. Can't wait to see all of your submissions out there as well as the summer wears on. Let's show everybody what great Habs fans you are, no matter where you're at in the world. Also remember to drop us a question down below if you have a question for the All Habs mailbag. And a reminder, this week's feedback forum question, we're getting down to business now. There are 4 teams left in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Who do you think is going to be the one to win it all, win the championship, and lift the Stanley Cup at the end of this championship playoff run? It's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting. Things are already kind of upside down. There's goaltender issues, there's injuries, there's surprises happening. It's quite exciting. Let me know who you think is going to win the Stanley Cup this year. As a reminder, last week's feedback forum question, I asked you, what is one rule? If you could only change one rule in the NHL, what would it be? My answer was get rid of the shootout. I'd rather see an extension of 3-on-3 overtime instead of going to a skills competition to decide games. We did have some great responses from some of you as well. James Snedden says, modify the offside review, limit it to instances where a goal is scored on the rush. Once the offside is not a factor in the goal, then should not be allowed to challenge. Thanks for your comment, Jim. This has been a hot topic this week because of what happened in one of the one of the conference final games, the game between Edmonton and Colorado earlier this week. This has been a big point of scrutiny and controversy this week because of the ruling. So I agree. This is certainly one. Whether or not I'm going to say that they should do away with the rule or not, it's certainly when you have any rule that could absolutely impact the outcome of a game, it deserves to come under scrutiny once in a while to determine if it is an effective rule or if it's more detrimental to the game than it needs to be. So thank you for your comment. Love that. Also, Paul says the third man in or infamous instigator penalty, that the only rule that doesn't make sense. Thank you for your comment. I actually then asked Paul to kind of elaborate on that and asked him why that was the one rule that he really wanted to target. Read you part of his answer. He says, when real men play, they hold each other accountable. Like it or not, it's the truth. That rule doesn't allow for that and open the door to the cheap shot being acceptable. That has led to an increase in preventable injury. It's a contact sport played at a high pace. It's time we got used to that. Thank you, as always, for your comment, Paul. It is, it's the whole fighting in hockey thing. I mean, it has certainly evolved over the years. This isn't the 70s anymore, and there are things that have changed over the years. Some people are really against that change. Some people support it, but I think one common area that we can all agree on is that we'd like to see the number of lifelong injury, particularly injuries to the head and concussion and the ramifications of that, cut down and at least protected as much as possible in the sport. So a good answer from both of you gentlemen this week. Thanks so much for your replies. I look forward to hearing from all of you next week on what your answer to this week's Feedback Forum question is. And we've got a lot of exciting hockey coming up ahead. Be sure you check out last week's episode if you happen to miss it, and we'll see you right back here next Thursday for Habs Hockey Report. Take care.